Hi, my name's Glynis and this is my first solo exhibition here at the Horton. The main theme of the exhibition is the environment and my concerns for what's happening to our environment and the way human beings are impacting on the environment. For example, it used to be, when I was young, that everything was handmade. People would not buy something new until the other thing had broken or they needed to replace it. And I started deconstructing furniture to look at how things were made. For example, this chair you can see is Victorian, and it's quite beautiful when you open it up and see how somebody has made all these little pegs and turned the different shapes and strung the cane into it. And I just loved the feel of the patina and the wear of that chair. But sadly, we're losing these skills and people don't know how to construct furniture in the way that they did before. I've always been a collector of things and I just really like rooting around in skips looking for bits of interesting wood. I was interested in this piece particularly because of the holes that had been drilled in it, obviously for some pipes, some heating pipes. And this was once a skirting board. And you can see when I've sanded down the paint, the different layers of colours where different generations have come into this house, and you can see how they've changed. For example, the lime green must have been very fashionable, I think, probably in the 1960s. When you open up the wood, you can see the grain of the tree, and it reminds us how important trees are to our environment and to our homes. And to think that perhaps this skirting board was once an acorn or some other seed. And it fascinates me to see the journey that this skirting board has been on. Around here, we have a nursing chair, and again, you can see the patina of the wood and the wear and the joints and the different shapes. This one moves on now to my interest in the sea. Like many artists, I've always been interested in painting and drawing the landscape, but increasingly I've noticed more and more plastic washed up on the beaches. This one, I walked onto the beach one morning and the whole of the surf was covered in these plastic bottles. And obviously somebody had just dumped at sea a whole load of plastic bottles. And where the sea has weathered them, they've become almost camouflaged by the surf. So I collected them all up and I've made this composition, hopefully reminiscent of the seaside. Over here, again, I've been deconstructing music since working with the Horton. I've started to increasingly become interested in musical instruments. And here I've done a transcription of Picasso, looking at artists who use musical instruments in their work. And rather than just drawing it, I was reconstructing three-dimensionally. This one over here is the insides of an accordion. And it just amazes me how somebody somewhere has made all those individual little bits. Each little piece of metal has got a letter engraved on it, either D, G, or any other of the musical score. And here I'm looking at the landscape, how beautiful it is. This is the walk I do most days along the canal. And I'm interested in how we just take trees for granted. They're so beautiful, reflected in the water. And we need these trees because in our homes, everything's more or less got wood in it. The skirting boards, the roof rafters, the architraves. And wherever you go, you see a stand of trees. This one's in Spain. And they're just beautiful. And we need to look after them. So moving on now to my interest in the beach. One thing I've discovered is that quite often when you find a piece of plastic, it's camouflaged next to a piece of, this is seaweed or sea lettuce, and you can see the colour of the sea lettuce is identical to the plastic bottle. You can't tell it apart. And it fascinates me how they find one another on the beach. And I've made a huge collection of different objects like this. Here again, we've got a shell along with a piece of plastic. And the way the sea has weathered the plastic, it becomes camouflaged next to the shell. Around this way. This just looks like a piece of seaweed to most people. But if you look closely, this piece of seaweed is in and amongst this fishing netting. And it's very difficult to tell them apart. So often people will walk onto the beach and not realise how much plastic's there because it's so camouflaged. Again, this people just say, oh, what a beautiful shell. But right next to it, I found this piece of purple plastic. And you can hardly see it because it's exactly the same colour as the beautiful shell. And this one around here, crab claw. And next to the crab claw, we've got a piece of plastic. And again, it's identical to the end of the claw. You could easily just walk past and think it's another crab claw. And this was just one day walking up and down the beach. And it's almost as though people are fly tipping in the sea because it's all the same thing that gets washed up. And this was all lots of plastic, orange and yellow. They look like fishing floats and things, but just lying there. So I've made a collection. And this is a cabinet of curiosities where I've collected things. For example, this stone has got a piece of plastic on it. You can't tell them apart. They look exactly the same. and all throughout, you can see lots and lots of things. The feathers have got straws in and amongst them. And the ends of the feathers look just like the straws. You'd never notice the difference. But lots and lots of things like that. So this brings me on to my installation here. Black plastic seems to be a particular problem because there's so much of it. And so I've decided to make this spiral of black plastic. And in and amongst the seaweed are all the bits of plastic that I've picked up off the beach. I can pretty much guarantee whenever you go onto a beach, if you pick up the seaweed, you'll find plastic of some sort or description underneath. I decided to draw the spiral because the spiral is present in so much of nature, in shells, in seed heads. And this just brings me back to my paintings of the sea, where I've really started. Like most artists, I really enjoy painting the seascapes. And I love the light, love the colour, love the tranquility. And finally, the drawings. I've always loved drawing. And I spend a lot of time walking in the landscape. And when I'm outside, as I'm walking along, I think, now how would I draw that? What marks would I use to capture that feeling of the light, the dappled light on the track? And yeah. just finally, last drawings. These are the South Downs Way. During COVID, I set myself a task of walking the South Downs Way just to get out of the house and go somewhere where you could go. And it's a beautiful place to walk. And I hope people, after seeing this exhibition, will think about the environment and how we need to look after it. That's it. Thank you.